room who doesn't know who I am, but my name is Carol Boone. I'm the oldest, excuse me, Dorothy. I'm the oldest of the Boone girls. It's Carol, Sharon, Connie, and April. And so we're going to get started. You're going to learn a little bit more about the Zoom call in a few moments, but Melody, who is really going to be our MC, she arranged a Zoom call so Sharon's son could participate in this celebration of Sharon's life. However, we're having a little difficulty in getting him on the Zoom call, so she will work with it as long as she can, but we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to welcome all of you to this celebration of life of my sister Sharon Louise Boone Stewart. Each of you in some way, some of you have known us from little girl infants. My aunt over there has known us all our lives. And some of you have known us from church, coming up in Okima, Willowbrook Baptist Church, and going to school together in Tempe. Some of you know Sharon, and you don't know the others of us. And you know her because of her outstanding, incredible work in the field of, as she was a reporter, and then she worked for the unions, and she worked for USC at sometimes. But however you came to know my sister, we are glad to have you here today, and thank you so much for joining us. Today, people call this different things. And for me, this is a day to celebrate the life of my sister. It is, all of us have had a little bit of time of mourning, and that mourning will go on for us for a number of days, weeks, months, and years. But today we're here to say how much my sister meant to individuals here or groups of us here. So this is a celebration of her life. Now, since many of the people here are considered elderly, now I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Although I'm 76, I'm still trying to say that word and know that it applies to me. But right now I'm going to say seniors, because my aunt, who just turned 90, let's say happy birthday, Margie. She's probably elderly, and so I'm a senior. Since COVID is still alive and well, if you have not been vaccinated, we would hope that you would continue to wear your mask when you are not eating. So we'd appreciate that. On October 28, 2021, my life changed in a way I had never imagined. My mother and her siblings all lived well into their 80s and 90s. My Aunt Marie passed when she was 99 years of age. So I sort of took it for granted. Me and my sisters would live into our 80s and into our 90s. That has not happened. So while my life has changed, I feel so happy that during my lifetime of spending with my sisters and Sharon, we got to know each other, we got to love each other, and even if in areas where we were very different, where we had different ideas about a whole array of things, the job my mother did was that we were always to love and respect and honor each other. The differences do not count. What counts is that we love and respect each other. And I think we have achieved that, and we continue to do that. Now I feel like I've lost forever the physical presence of my sister Sharon, my best friend, a true hero who lived her life her way. And those of you who know her, would you say, yes, she lived her life her way? Sharon loved her family and friends. Her love for her longtime partner, Albert Reed, and her son, Alexander Cradle, was paramount in her life. Sharon's beginnings in a small, mostly Black Okemah community honed and informed her interest in civil rights. She was an avid reader as a child, and as she aged, she also became informed about the plight of poor people, not only in this country, but around the world. Through her partner's support, Albert Reed's support, Sharon was able to travel the world, going to the continent of Africa several times, Europe, just many, many other places. And their partnership helped to support her understanding of people all over the world. And she also, as a world traveler, tried to support people all over the world. An example of this, when we went to Ghana because there was a school for children that she was working at USC at the time. We collected funds to go to Ghana to help support that school. Sharon dedicated much of her life in efforts to serve the welfare of others. She spent many hours advocating for criminal justice reform, health care for all, a woman's right to choose, and voting rights. And I know because of, as we were aging together, we started to understand the plight of the elderly, and that potential for elders to be abused. So more and more, we were talking about how do we speak to that issue. I have always been sustained by Sharon's unconditional love and support of me. Sometimes I was embarrassed because Sharon would want to introduce me to people and go on with all these glorious stories, and I'd say, stop. I said, don't believe half of what she says. But no matter what I said about myself when I was being self-critical, she was able to say, Carol, that's not who you are. You made that, you might have done that thing, but that's not who you are. And that's what you count on from somebody who loves and cares about you, to always bring out the best in you. You know, Sharon and I belong to a book club. And I just finished reading a book that the title of the book is The Life and Death of Aida. This book is about a woman who was born in Mexico, and I'm not going to go into it long, but she was an undocumented, I don't say illegal, undocumented person. And it really goes through the trials of people at our borders who want to come to this country. And you know what I said to myself after listening, because it's a heart-wrenching story. I said, oh my gosh, and wait, I'm glad Sharon's not here. She wanted me to go to the border so we can go. I kid you not. We have been to so many protests because that's the way she was. She wanted to be a part of the change that this country needs. Does that remind you of Marco Rubio? Remember when he was giving his speech here? I was going to get in front of the water. Okay, I am so grateful for my sister Connie, her husband Charles, who is on Zoom.
Hey, Charles.
My sister April, my daughter Stacia, and my son-in-law Henry. And I am so grateful for my Aunt Margie through this time of loss. She has had experience with loss. She had 9 of her siblings reach adulthood. And now it's her and her younger brother. So she has been able to help me during this very difficult time of loss. And I appreciate it, and I love my Aunt Margie. all of your words and your cards, your text messages, the Facebook messages have sometimes been overwhelming. But during this immense time of loss, I want you to know I appreciate your words and your encouragement and your support. I could say so much about my sister, but I know all of you want to have a minute or two to talk. So I want to introduce really our MC for today. Her name is Melody Brown. Melody and Sharon have been friends for probably almost 40 years. And I say that maybe 35 because they raised their, Melody has a son and Sharon has a son. And Melody and Sharon had a deep and committed relationship. And the reason I know how deep that friendship was, it's like a sisterhood. You know why? Because just like with my sisters, there's ups and downs. You disagree with things and sometimes feelings get hurt a little bit and everything, but you stick together. And that's Sharon and Melody. They have remained friends for a very, very long time. And we want you to know all that you've done today, we appreciate it. The Boone family, the Young family, we appreciate what you've done. Thank you, Melody. With that, let us begin the celebration.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, we are recording this just so everybody knows, but thank you all for joining together today to celebrate the life of our beloved Sharon. Sharon adored and admired her family of origin. We just heard from her sister just now. Represented here today is April here, but you know, Carol, Connie, Charles is on Zoom, and April representing her sisters and brother-in-law. And Al, Sharon was crazy in love with her partner, Albert Reed. Al swept her off her proverbial feet around 25 years ago. They met as co-workers at the Long Beach Press Telegram, and they've been together ever since. Back in the day, let's just say Al had serious game, and Sharon could talk to him for hours and hours. He and Sharon lit up the room, and they took such good care of each other. They had each other's backs and each other's fronts. Al, thank you for being such a great partner to my dear friend Sharon. I know this is difficult, and we're all here for you. Before all else, Sharon was a devoted mom. Sharon loved her son and Alex, and was always uplifted by their many long, authentic, and spirited conversations. And Sharon was so excited by the recent additions to her family of grandson Atticus and his brothers Isaiah Stanley and Michael Gonzalez. They brought her much joy and hope for the next generation. And Sharon loved her extended family of choice, those of us here and lucky enough to have called her our friend. Sharon and I would often refer to each other as sisters by another mother. And it was true. From the moment we met in 1986, we were peas in a pod. Sharon supported me without conditions or judgment. I'm sure she supported you that way. Let's see if that's Alex.
Dion Waters. Who's Dion Waters? Maybe, is that Alexander? Okay, well,
Hopefully, let's assume that is. That might be from the facility here. And so she supported me without judgment through every milestone, every hardship in my life. However, I'm humble enough to know that she belonged to many of us, right? We were all Sharon's loved ones and friends. She made us all feel special. And she let us know that our life and our humanity mattered. When you were with Sharon, you were it, you know? So we mattered to her and we mattered to others in our immediate world. I miss her very much. It's been a month. I miss our phone calls, our happy hours. We both liked a little Pinot Grigio. Coffee dates, we hung out, we cooked, hiked, book clubbing, walking the canals, even with her sister Carol and my little dog, who she loved, of 12 years. We went to meetings and demonstrations, and early in our lives, raising our boys together. We cooked meals, we had slumber parties, lots of birthday parties, lots of holidays and celebrations. We enjoyed life and we did it all together as friends. And upon her return to Phoenix, who remembers her greenhouse? I think, Al, you got her greenhouse, but she had, it was great garden to meal. We loved cooking those meals where she would pick her vegetables from the garden, that she was such a green thumb. She was so good at that. Sharon hails from the Okima community of Phoenix, as Carol mentioned, and this was an integral part of her upbringing, her identity. Her early beginnings gave her direction in those values that she carried with her throughout her life. She was known for being an independent thinker and a warrior for justice. She was a voracious reader and writer as well, and she was unapologetic in her advocacy of working people. She believed that men and women of all races and ethnicities produce the value in our society, produce the services, and that bosses needed to be challenged to do the right thing. Sharon was not only a competent organizer, she unified people and worked so hard on their behalf, whether it was as a union organizer in Tennessee, Los Angeles, a journalist at the Rocky Mountain News, a reporter at the Long Beach Press Telegram. She was unafraid, unapologetic, a fierce advocate for her co-workers and her union brothers and sisters. Her final position before retirement was as a community director at USC. Many of you know her from that. And she partnered with the school in Ghana that Carol mentioned. And
Melody,
yes,
here's Alex.
hi, Alex, thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. We're going to be, I'm going to finish my remarks. We're going to hear from a few people in the audience, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to share as well. Okay? You didn't miss much, and this meeting's being recorded.
Okay, can you hear me?
Do we freeze? Alex, you can hear me? All right, that's audio on your end. That's the problem. Charles, can you hear me? You can hear me. So Alex, your audio, you need to fix it. Everybody else on Zoom can hear me, correct? Okay.
So Alex got to join us. That's awesome. And so Sharon's last position, she built community empowerment programs in South Los Angeles. And Sharon was also active in the Democratic Party in California and Phoenix. She had a full life. She represented what today we call the progressive wing, right, of the Democratic Party. And she came full circle. We campaigned for Jesse Jackson.
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Can you see you good?
Yeah, I think you're good.
2020. Hi, Alex. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear it now.
Okay, so I am just sharing some memories about your mom.
All right, awesome.
There's about 50 friends and family that are here in the room.
All right, awesome.
Okay, so Sharon had the biggest heart, and I'm going to close my comments in a minute. Whenever we passed a fellow Phoenician who was panhandling, Sharon would give them a $5 bill. Sharon, why don't you give them $1 or $2, right? She said, well, if they're out here, they're not able to work for whatever reason, and they need a helping hand. So we know Sharon had a big heart. She always walked her talk. When Sharon was in the room, I felt more courageous. She was inspiring as well as she was fearless. She not only cared about what was happening in the world, she sought to change it for the better every day. She always told me that I was in the driver's seat of my life and I should live it on my terms, just like she lived her life, beginning to end. I miss you, girlfriend. You're now resting in peace. I will close by saying what we always said when we hung up on the phone. 2 words, love you. Thank you. So what we're going to do is, thank you. I know it's hard to speak in front of people. It was hard for me to share. I've been blocked all month. I just wrote that 2 days ago. I could not get emotionally unblocked, but I'm trying. So if anybody here, we've laid out her life. If you want to share any phase of that life with us, we would love to hear the memory. And would you like to come up here, or you want to stand where you are? Is that easier?
This is my aunt, Marguerite Blackman, Marguerite Stewart Blackman.
So I'm going to move the camera, guys. Those of you on Zoom, I'm going to try to catch your people.
All right.
Oh, she's coming to the podium. So Alex and others, you can see we have a room full of people here.
Yeah, I see.
You good, man?
Yeah, I'm good.
And Alex, she's waving to you.
All right.
Start. Good Samaritan. I'm Marguerite Blackman, Sharon. I've known Sharon for over 75 years. Sharon lived
Can't hear that.
in Phoenix and part-time in Silver Beach, California.
He's kind of a quiet speaker, man.
Yeah, you won't be able to hear that. Well, just do your best.
Remembering Sharon Louise Stewart, a good Samaritan. I will miss Sharon the most for looking up any information I needed. She would take time out of her busy schedule to give me the answer I needed. Sharon would help anyone who came to her for help, whether it was for her time, her money, her food, or her home. She never turned anyone down or away. Sharon opened her home for her cousin Katie and Melvin Douglas during Katie's illness so that they would be close to her doctor and to her relatives. She gave them the keys to her home to stay as long as they needed to stay. Sharon had second cousins whom she had never met or seen. When she spoke to them on the telephone, they said they wanted to come to Phoenix. She told them to come to her house. She was in California when they came. She called Carol, her sister, to open the door to her house and give them the keys. They spent several days at her home. Sharon opened her doors to her home to a woman and her granddaughter whom she had never met until late in the evening before she and Elle would be leaving for California around 4 in the morning. This lady had no job, no money, no food, or a place to lay her or her child's head. Sharon showed the lady and child around the house. She showed them the freezer, refrigerator, and cupboard, all filled with food. She handed the lady the keys and some money and said, "Make yourself at home." The lady and child moved in around 7 a.m. the next morning. They stayed about 3 months. Sharon was a good Samaritan.
Like to come forward and speak. Please come.
I'm the short, so I'm just giving my name in particulars as I walk up. My name is Deborah, and I love Sharon. I love Carol, Honey, and I drew from all three of these women, especially Miss Opal. Now, this is the thing. Sharon had so much energy. I thought Miss Opal had triplets. She could not have done all that stuff. There's only 24 hours in a day. How she was able to do what she did for people, it would just blew my mind of how caring she was and how much energy she was all over the place, but it was always for the good. I'm from a town called Avondale, way west of here. And Carol and Sharon both were heads of departments that helped teenagers and the poor. I was blessed to be poor. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have ever met Carol. I didn't mind being poor. I never went to bed hungry. I never went to bed without the love of my parents. Good quality friends. So I thank God that I was poor. I was a woman. I was born a girl. The places that she went in Africa, girls were not very valuable. They were worthless, less than animals. after a period of time, a woman starts to believe that she's worthless and she's less than animal. I was priceless. And Sharon and Carol, I have to use them synonymous because they were attached at the hip most of the time. What she did was tell me what I didn't know. I didn't know that I was precious. I didn't know that I was worth anything. I didn't know that I would become something other than what society told me I was going to be. I'm thankful for Sharon. Earlier, Carol mentioned that she reads. Sharon read. The one thing she told me about, if I didn't do anything else, read. I don't care if it's a cereal box, the funny pages, not whatever you want to read. It could be fiction, nonfiction. Just read. So I read, and I read, and I read. And the book I most like to read is the Bible. And wouldn't you know that what Sharon was telling me all along was in the Bible, the Word of God, that I was more precious than me. That's how God viewed me. I'm more precious than me. Another thing, talking. Shyness was not an attribute of Sharon. She talked to anybody, anywhere, even if they're horizontal, like homeless people. Oh my gosh, the smell of some of these people she would talk to and hug and embrace and give money to and talk to. She didn't have a clock. I don't think Sharon had a clock, but there's no way she could use that much time for somewhere when she had to be somewhere. How did her everything she did, she was not on a 24-hour clock. She wasn't Eastern, Western time, none of that. She was her own timekeeper, and she used her time very wisely, very graciously. And I thank so much for what Sharon did. Let me just say, you say, well, how long did you know? When I first met her, she was part of a NYC program where teenagers could get a job. You had to qualify for the job. And guess what the qualification for getting a job at NYC was? Yes. You had to be uneconomically sound. So I fit the criteria to get a job. And she was the coordinator, all the teenagers. So what made my life different because of Sharon is, imagine a pool and you throw a pebble in the pool, and what happens? It ripples out. Just keeps going till it just ends at the bank of the stream or pond. Since I've met her, my life has trickled out to this very moment. I'm in a room with a lot of people I don't even know, because she dropped a pebble in my pond over 45 years ago. When I first saw her, she had Stacia on her back, just walking the whole park. It was an event planned at the park. And so and Stacia didn't want to get down. She was kind of happy up there. And I thought she was going to break Sharon's back, because back then Sharon was little. She was very frail, but she was proudly just walking her niece around. So I'm not going to keep you too much time. But if you're looking at me right now, because of Sharon, I am your ripple. I am your ripple. You're mine. I won't forget you. I may not remember your name, but I know that you are in this room with me right now because I met Sharon a long time ago. And again, my name is Deborah, and I acknowledge the fact that each and every person in this room is the ripple for the rest of my life.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I did not know that story. That was awesome. Anybody at this table want to say a few words? Yeah, just ask it. And you want to talk? Yeah, okay. I'll say a few words.
Thank you. I'm Lucy, along with some other friends of Sharon from Los Angeles. We are here in our friendship, long-time friendship. I just want to tell a quick story that involves Sharon and Al. I think it was in the 80s, although I think Al told me it was actually in the 70s. I'm not sure.
Lucy, are you comfortable putting your mask down to talk?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sorry.
Elaine, could you ask her to speak a little louder also?
Yeah, and they said project a little more. if you can.
Okay.
Go for it.
Sharon and Al, I should think it was Al and Sharon, I'm not sure, organized what I believe was their first trip to Africa. And they organized the trip to South Africa. And Sharon's mom was on that trip. And I can't remember if her sister Carol was there or not. Yeah. And some other friends of hers. And that was when Sharon was working at USC. And this is a different school. This was earlier, I think. And this was a school near USC that had, what do you call it? Exchange
Students?
yeah, so that a neighboring school next to USC had a writing relationship with the children in a small town in South Africa, and this was a private school, and they exchanged, letters with each other, and turns out that was a private school, and it was owned. This was a year into the end of apartheid. This was during Mandela's first year in office. And apartheid was everywhere. It had no way yet, eased. And we realized, and so, what do I want to tell you? They welcomed us, the children sang for us. People made a big lunch outside, enjoyed their hospitality. But when we got back to where we were staying, we realized that these white South African owners were some of the most racist people on this earth, and we could not stand to stay there anymore. And we could not take any more of their hospitality. What sticks in my mind, the image that sticks in my mind was these were the children of the farm workers that worked for this wealthy white Afrikaner household. And after the ceremony and the visit, where we were so warmly welcomed that day, we had to drive people back to various places. And it just went on for, I don't know, I think an hour or 2 hours of, it felt like a very long time of dropping people off. And no matter how late it got, there were these children still walking home from that school to where they lived. And I will never forget that in my head, that image. We went to Durban, where Al got knocked over, had no business wearing a golden chain and a nice camera on his shoulder. Sharon got knocked over, but I remember you on the ground. Yeah. That was something, but we saw the Indian Ocean, you know, and then we had various other adventures. But that wonderful, I mean, I am been forever grateful that Sharon and Al invited me to go on that trip. And she loved coming to where I live because it's a condo place with a whole lot of greenery. And Sharon and Al especially like coming to the concert, the jazz concert that we had out on the lawn. And I cannot even get, we haven't had it because of COVID, but I cannot get used to the idea. That's one of the last ones I saw Sharon now over there. And so I wanna say something to Al, that I'm so sorry for you, and like everyone. I think the two of them remain just like this for years and sorry that she's gone. Thank you all.
Thank you. Please. And Lucy just celebrated her milestone birthday, so congratulations on that. Please come up. And Alex, I think I'll call on you next, so just let me know.
All right, thank you.
I'm Audrey. As I think of my little cousin Sharon, or Sherry, as I grew up calling her, I think of light. I associate light with the possibility, with brightness, heat, and intensity. I saw this in Sherry, plus kindness, graciousness, and a strong desire to help others, as she often did. She was intense in her beliefs as she reflected her light. And as my cousin Carol said, it's not the destiny, it's a journey that we all take. I learned a lot from her because she was a strong, steward woman, and as such, she motivated me as we played together as children, although she was always reading. We traveled, we cooked, we cried, we partied, we drank, and we danced. I believe we all have such a light. When I grow up, I want to be like my cousin Sharon and let my light shine in honor of the Lord.
So everybody, Alex is on Zoom. So Alex, you're on a laptop and I'm having you face the audience. So you won't all be able to see him, but let's try to listen to Alex wants to share for sure. I know it was very devastating news.
Yeah, it was.
So
Excuse
I'm
me.
going to let you say a few words, Alex.
All right, thank you. Bear with me, you know, I wrote something, but, you know, I'm still working on it, you know, right now. But I mean, first off, I'd like to extend my condolences to all those who are also grieving the loss of my mother. With that being said, I must admit that in preparation for this speech, my personal grief initially presented itself as an obstacle in my attempt to compose a eulogistic tribute worthy of the happiness, love, and meaning my mother bestowed in her life and in her relationships. For while my mother's legacy is clearly unambiguous, for the admirable, deeply caring, meaningful, and inspirational nature of it, the celebratory theme wisely selected as the fitting context capable of rendering justice to that memory was initially stymied by the deep sadness and sorrow I felt from not only losing my mother, but from the personal remorse I felt from my sinking feeling that, given the current reality of my social location, I had failed her. This feeling of having let my beloved mother down resided in the self-evident potentiality that my wayward past inadvertently put me in a position in which it was impossible for me to grant my mother's deepest, most heartfelt dying wish, to assuage her of her fear and relieve her of the painful idea that I knew how and in practice did love myself. And from this display, thereby to free her from her own undeserved pain and the misplaced shame and the misplaced remorse she held from her misconception that she had somehow failed me. It is because my mother did show me nothing but the purest, most endearing and devoted form of unconditional love that I am truly, truly heartbroken. That I was not able to show her how truly amazing and wonderful and great of a mother she was. And her ability to rear me in the most healthy, stable, loving manner possible. And in what was truly her highly effective capacity to develop and cultivate in me those moral, ethical, interpersonal, and emotional characteristics and values which make for a caring, loving, empathetic, respectful, considerate, and well-intentioned human being. This was the nature of my aforementioned eulogistic predicament. I was deeply aggrieved from the feeling that I lost forever the chance to finally show my mother real gratitude.
It's okay, Alex. You know your mom loved you very much. She loved your conversations and all your phone calls.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I know my mother loved me. I know she did. Well, basically I came to see that, I mean, initially I was having problems, writing this eulogy and trying to, stick to the celebratory thing because I was just so depressed. But, I came to see that it really does my mother a disservice to, dwell on something that, it's irreversible now. I can't change the past. And, the only way to move forward and, truly honor her life, what she means to me, is to be happy and to be successful.
That's right. Are you done sharing your remarks, or do you want to finish with something else?
Well, there are, I really, even though this is a tragedy for me, my mother imparted to me very valuable, life lessons, a worldview, that helped change, the way that I thought about people and the way that I thought about the world. And, those are things that, I can be proud of.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, basically that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing, Alex. We're here for you. Were you able to hear? Why don't you spend, Paul, I'm going to ask you to speak in a minute, but we're going to have a few more in the room speakers because they're easier to concentrate. Please,
We love you, Alex.
Thank you. I love you too.
everyone here loves you, Alex. We want you to have success.
Absolutely.
All right. There
Thank
we
you.
go. You introduce yourselves, please. You can start.
I'm Natalie, and this is Sabrina, and we worked very closely with Sharon at the Press Telegram in Long Beach. And this, I have to tell you, Alex, your mom loved you. You know she loved you. She believed in you. She always believed in you. as do all of us.
That's right.
And
Thank
I
you.
know you've had some tough times, and your mom has dealt with some tough times. And you are in our hearts, as is your mom, as is Al, and all of Sharon's family and friends.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Love you, Alex.
Love you too. Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, you're a pretty good writer too.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's wait a few things.
Say something, Mom.
Natalie and I knew Sharon from the Press Telegram. Really, it was the activism that we had. We were, the three of us were very, very active in the leadership of the Newspaper Guild, which became CWA, and also in partnership with all of the trades and all of the LA County Federation of Labor. We actually raised some hell as well. Anyway, yeah, okay. I will say, it was Sharon, I don't know, she was just like, she was a lightning bolt that came into my
You
life.
know, Sharon, like,
For good, for
I'm
good.
not gonna tell you guys anything you don't already know, but Sharon had purpose.
Yeah.
You know, the word authentic is probably overused these days, but it definitely describes Sharon. She was the real deal, no matter what she did.
Yeah. And I will say, we did a lot, I was resonating with some of the sharing here about, I think Sharon and I did a lot of marching and protesting.
Yeah.
We haven't done as much recently. The one thing I will say is as I was reflecting in the last month, that that passion and that purpose and that commitment for change that she brought, I've actually carried that into other aspects of my life. So I'm no longer active with the Newspaper Guild, but I do take that sense of right into the job that I'm in right now, and wherever I have the opportunity to make change. I think about it differently, and I put the energy into it because of the role model that Sharon was. You believe, and so she helped me to believe that action would make change, and that there wasn't always a clear path on that, but if you just keep doing the right thing and taking those steps, that it turns out. And so, I take that into my life now. I take it into my daughters, who are also doing a lot of the right things and active in their own rights. They're Native American, so they're very active in a very small minority. And I'm glad to have had Sharon show us the way on that. So, and Natalie.
So Sharon and Sabrina and I became a bit of a troika.
Yeah, that's true.
Our union at the Press Telegram was having some serious financial issues. And, that's the scariest thing. I think you always know management would be delighted if the union falls apart. But when you found that the union has sort of done itself in and put itself at risk, you're just heartbroken. So
We did the right thing.
we did the right thing.
We
The
were
three of us
transparent.
stepped up in different ways. Sharon and Sabrina, Sabrina was the treasurer, and Sharon was the local president. And both those positions scared me incredibly because they both came with signatory responsibility. And I was willing to do anything but not put my name on a financial.
No, I did that.
So we were in deep doo-doo with past taxes that had not been paid by the former executive director. And to have to tell that to people who were paying dues out of their checks through automatic deduction, just, it was something nobody would want to do, but you had to do because there was nowhere to run and there was nowhere to hide. So I just took the easy job of unit chair, negotiating contracts,
No, you went through
doing
the two. records. She went through the 2 boxes of records where there were envelopes and all kinds of letters from the IRS and the EDD in California that said past due, past due, past due. So I will just, I guess it was very hard, and the union came through it, the unit came through it as rank and file leaders. It was really hard. Sharon was our spirit guide and doing what was right. And there was never any question that we were going to be transparent. We were going to be open. We were going to make it right. We were going to take the bitter pill in some of the case that we needed to do. And the team held together.
Sabrina got to hold all the meetings with the IRS agent.
So we all have our roles to play, I'm just saying. So Sharon was the spirit guide, Natalie went through the box of bills, and I had the negotiations with the IRS agent. But we did turn out, we turned out, we survived through that and lived to fight another day, as they say. And I just wanted to be said, I think other people might have been tempted to kind of say, let's not make a big deal about this, let's put it in the corner, let's not. And that just wasn't Sharon, that wasn't you, Nat.
It wasn't
No,
you.
and it wasn't that. So anyway, so that's kind of a weird story, but it's actually, I think encapsulates who Sharon was, which always do the right thing,
Do
man.
the right thing, do the right thing. And we were already friends before this. And of course, we got closer and we were around during the budding relationship with Alex. And I didn't know who it was, but I knew it was someone in the building. And Sharon wanted to keep it secret for a little longer, so all she could tell me was, I'm in love. So she was, and now too.
So, all right, well, so Nat, we've probably taken enough time here, but we have many stories.
So many
that we're-
stories. Thank you for Sharon, because I'm still talking to her in my head and getting her advice and her wisdom.
Thank you for sharing.
Let's do that now.
Since everybody has already made my presentation.
You'll make it your way.
And I have had my shots and I've had my boosters, but I.
She knows you.
have those who haven't had the shots who lie about it.
So that's,
I've got my cards, my wallet to prove it too.
Is it real?
Hey, as real as it can be, sweetheart. I guess I can, I'm trying to, oh, you know how to maintain social distancing? Loan a person money. As I sat here, I thought about, well, I can cross that off. I can cross that off. I can cross that off. And then as I sat here, some of the people who knew me from Okemah know that I fancy myself as a singer. I kept thinking about song titles. Memories, that was the one that kept coming back to me. Those who knew Sharon in the seasons of her life, and we do all have seasons of our lives. The relationships as family, as friends, as neighbors, as colleagues. You all knew that she was, as you've said, the real thing, the real deal. In preparing these comments, I kept coming back to, how do I describe this woman that everybody else knows? And the thing that kept coming back to me was a beautiful song, a love song, which, yeah, Bill, I'm gonna sing. A song made popular by both Ella Fitzgerald and Nat King Cole. No, it's not that one. What it is the song has ended, but the melody lingers on. And that's all I'm gonna give you. You have to buy my album to get the rest of it. The memories and the melodies will linger on, the thoughts forever. During the seasons of her life, I knew her as a youngster. I knew her back in those days at Willow Grove Baptist and from the Okima community. And as an adult, she moved all over the world. I only knew about Colorado and the East Coast and the West Coast. I didn't find out about the world until today. But wherever she went, she left a mark. And, you know, the one thing we all, to the person, have feelings of sadness, of loss, of concern for the people who were close to her and who loved her. And in knowing her, the one thing we can be very thankful for, we had the privilege of knowing her. We had and I consider that a sincere privilege. When I got the call about asking some comments, my first reaction was to say no. But then I thought about who we were talking about. And I said, yes. Yeah, now we have these feelings of loss, of sorrow, of caring for those who knew her best. A little of that is for ourselves too. Remembering Sharon, I've, like somebody else came up and earlier, used adjectives to describe her. Even though I knew Sharon in the early part of her life, even as a youngster, she was sophisticated. She was a person who you knew was intelligent. She was imaginative, and she indeed was somebody who was righteous, not self-righteous, but righteous, and concerned for issues of justice. And that followed her all through her life. Now, she was involved with issues of justice, women's rights, justice and prison reform, workers' rights, having the university stand up and provide its resources to the community. Now, I started using a few adjectives, and I could go on, and I could pull my thesaurus out, and I could continue. But the thing of it is, you all have your adjectives to describe it, and those are more meaningful because those are within you and to your soul. You each have that image engraved on your heart, engraved in your mind, and we need to keep those there. We need to keep those parts of her alive and cherished. And I want to finish with something. I gave Carol, where's Carol? I gave Carol a picture today of the choir when we were all at Willow Grove. I gave a picture of Carol that I dare she won't show you. She was in the first grade. And then a picture of her when she was this beautiful young lady in high school. But then there's a picture of Sharon. And it's addressed to a guy named Johnny. Johnny was my younger brother. And I have a story I had to tell about, I think Johnny was Carol's first boyfriend, is that right, Carol? Sharon's first, whoever you are. Sharon's first boyfriend.
First boyfriend was Neil Thompson.
Neil Thompson. Well, Johnny was somewhere along the line. And Johnny and Sharon had planned to go to the high school prom. Only Johnny was not old enough to have a driver's license. I'm the big brother, so I agree. I will take the other driver. I'll be the transportation for the night. And everything went real well. I took them there. They had a great time. When I got back down to the Boone household, I had one hell of a tongue lash by Ms. Boone. I missed the curfew by about 2 minutes. And not only for that, but she told all three of us, the next time Johnny takes Sharon on a date, he will have to be old enough to have his own driver's license in his own car. And you might think that that was a passing thing, but for a while, I taught Silver Sneakers Senior Fitness down here at the center. And this lady can verify that. And she was happy when I left. And what happened is, yeah. And what happened was, all these years later, here I am, a gray-haired old man, approaching 80, and Opal still remembered that. She still remembered that. Do you believe that, Carol? Oh, I believe. Oh, she believed it. And Johnny would not. She told me that Johnny would not take Sharon on a date until he was old enough to drive and had his own car. And she believed that. Our beloved childhood friend, like our community, Okema, is gone, but not forgotten. And as I begin my remarks, the song has ended, but the melody lingers on. You and the moon are gone, but the melody lingers on.
Well,
Joe, can you come up? Oh, you can come up first. Thank you. You'll introduce yourself. Yes, thank you.
My government name is Lori Young. But my friends and family call me Cindy. And Sharon and Carol and Connie have always been like big sisters to me. My family came from Transmission or King area. And so Carol has always been like a mentor to me. Connie and Sharon, they all just seem so smart. And I just appreciate them, and I appreciate the life that Sharon has lived and been an example. And what I do is I sing. So I'm just gonna sing like one little verse of one song and one little verse of another song, and then that'll end it. Because my voice trembles when I talk. When I sing, something just happens. May the works that I've done speak for me. May the works that I've done speak for me. Oh yeah. When I've done all I can and my friends don't understand, let the works that I've done speak for me. Till we meet, till we meet again, till we meet at Jesus' feet, until we meet till we meet again. God be with you until we meet again.
Well, in the spirit of a moment of reflection and silence for our beloved Sharon, we have a friend from Los Angeles, Maya, who had some health issues yesterday, so she couldn't make it today. But she searched all month for the appropriate poem. And this is one of my besties from New York, who was a fond friend of Sharon as well. And she's agreed, while we reflect on Sharon for a minute, to share a poem. It's not that long, it's just a few minutes.
Joan flew in from New York to be here. She loves Sharon so much.
I do want to share that Sharon was true light and true love. And from the minute I met Sharon through Melody,
around 1986, 87, and the minute she came to my apartment, they had work to do in the city, and they stayed in my apartment for 50 days. She was so loving and and ever since then, you know, I would meet with her when I would see Melody, and Sharon would always make lunch for us, and she was so nice to my daughter. And she was just a beautiful, beautiful person, truly a wonderful person. I'll miss her very much. This poem is by a woman from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, who goes by the moniker 1SP. Her presence cannot be denied. She stands tall and strong with pride. She cannot overlook her magnitude because she has beauty with attitude. What a woman! What a woman indeed. What a strong Black woman for her just even be. She defines the essence of perfection in each notable fashion without exception. Highly cognizant of her forefather and mothers. Therefore, she paves paths for so many others. What a woman. What a woman indeed. What a strong Black woman, even for a crazy world to see. Her smile is like heaven's gate open, bringing joy to all who are chosen. A lady of strength beyond any measure, and a heart too big for one person for treasure. What a woman indeed. What a strong Black woman who wound up inspiring me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Still there?
Yes, Alex is here.
Sharon loved you so much, and she called me right after, because she was very into politics, so we all know, and when Cuomo stepped down, she called me that day, and she wanted to find out what New York was thinking, what I was thinking, and she talked so much about you that day and how much she loves you, so I just want you to know.
Thank you.
And I
Thank
know
you.
you know that, but
Yeah, thank you. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I know there's one person on Zoom that wants to talk just for a few minutes. Alex's father, Paul Cravel, was, the first part of Paul's life, and we've all remained friends over the many decades. And so, Paul, if you want to say a couple of words. In Sharon's memory. Yep, we can see you.
Okay, is this fine? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you, Melody. It's hard to add to all of the platitudes and honors that have been given Sharon at this memorial. In fact, all of those things were what attracted me to her in, I think it was probably the early 80s when we first met each other. We found ourselves agreeing on a lot of the social issues of the day. We found ourselves agreeing on methods to use to change history. It was always great to get out the vote, but if we could also get out 5 people to get out 5 more voters each, so much the better. I just want to give one example of a campaign that we worked on, and Sharon helped initiate this. There was a June 19th held in Denver, Colorado, which is where we were living at the time, and it's every year. And they went to get Coors beer to sponsor the event, the entire event. Coors beer administrators, excuse me, had recently made a very racist remark before a group of Black business owners in Denver. One of them was, you should be glad that your ancestors had been dragged over to the US to have the privilege of living in such a great country. I mean, it was outrageous. All of the organizations, Black, white, Latino, including led by the NAACP, waged a massive boycott campaign of Coors, which we succeeded, and which we were very involved in. Actually, Sharon was one of the leaders of this campaign. And we've got Coors, who Colorado is their home state, and they were #1 in sales there. But after this boycott, they fell to #3. And in the country, they were #3, and they had fallen to #5. Well, one of the ways that happened was when they set up their Coors beer tent around the perimeter of the June 19th event. Members of our committee, black and white, we had a lot of union members who were involved, we went to this beer tent, and we had signs saying boycott Coors. We explained why, and we passed out tens of thousands of flyers to people who were coming to the tent to get a beer. Some said, well, I'm thirsty. I don't want to, where do I get a beer? We told them, just walk down the street, the end of this block, Miller's selling beer, go down and buy your beer there. And they did. It was just a U-turn, and people went down the sidewalk and left the Coors tent. Bottom line is that Coors was so infuriated, lost so much money on this event, and was fearful that this would be spread further in the United States, that they called a meeting to meet with some of the key organizations to arrive at a settlement. So the NAACP, SCLC, among some of the Latino organizations, the AFL-CIO and unions affiliated with them, and we won a settlement. The settlement was that Coors would absolutely cease and desist from that kind of discussion or behavior from that point until any time in the near future. They would put, I forget the numbers now, but it was a couple of $1 million into a jobs creation program for Blacks, another couple $1 million of money into jobs creation for Latino workers. And they would allow any union who wanted come into their operation to attempt to organize workers free of interference. So that's something that a lot of people in the public saw happen, but did not know that this fiery young Black woman by the name of Sharon Stewart helped to define and helped to lead this campaign that won such an important victory. Thanks very much. And Alex, it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you too, Dad. Love you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for sharing that story. Is there anybody else here who feels like sharing for a few minutes? Yes, please, Peggy. Peggy's also coming in for the day.
Well, yeah, I'd like to say a couple of words.
Oh, Charles, please, go ahead.
Well, I'll wait till whoever's coming up.
No, we got you. We can see you and hear you.
Okay. I met Sharon and Carol and Connie when we were kids. I think I was 18 and Sharon was 19. And 3 years later, I married her sister, Connie, and we became in-laws, my sister-in-law. But fast forward to present day, Sharon, as everyone knows, was a great person. She had a big heart. She had a caring heart. And as people mentioned, she invited people in her home, and she made sure that people that she knew were taken care of. Over the years, the past couple of years, Sharon and I have really become really close to the fact that now, here recently, we dropped the in-laws. I've known Sharon now as my sister, and we often talk to each other, and that's how we greet each other. Hey, bro. Hey, sis. And Sharon became a sister to me, and as I loved her just as much as I do my natural sister. She was a great person. A couple of things that I yeah, a lot of memories that I have of her, but a couple that I really enjoy to think about is she was a great cook, as everybody knows. And she was very generous in the fact that when she had friends over, she would always like to have a banquet. And she was great at hosting a lot of parties. When her friends came over, she made sure that the family was always invited to celebrate her friends and to meet all of her friends. Another great memory I have of her is both she and I were gardeners. She loved the garden, I loved the garden. Each spring, each fall, we plant our vegetable gardens. We talk about how we planted, what we use for fertilizer and all this. And both of us, we had some pretty good yield. One thing Sharon was best at was her flower garden. And I would plant my flowers each spring. She would plant hers each spring. And lo and behold, after a month or two, my flowers started looking kind of dismal. Plants wouldn't grow. And I tried to fertilizer everything. So one day I went up to Sharon, and Sharon's garden always, her flowers were blooming. They were big and healthy and no brown spots or anything. So I asked Sharon, I said, Sharon, how do you keep your flowers so great and so good? And she told me, well, Charles, I talk about flowers. I left it at that. I can't talk about flowers like you can. So everybody knew that she had a real green thumb and a great heart. And like I said, I love my sis. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you, Charles. You know, she loved you so much and you were her favorite handyman for many years.
Yes.
Call Charles. So Peggy, we're going to hear from Peggy, who came in today from Long Beach or LA somewhere.
Yes, I drove in yesterday from Los Angeles, which was kind of crazy. You all drive really fast. And I'm just so happy to be here. I want to talk about Sharon as a friend, because she was, we were in a group together. I think it started back in the 90s sometime. And it was a group of women, and we would have brunch together, and we would share about our lives, and we would share about politics and about whatever we were doing. And there was about, I don't know, 9 of us. Melody was part of the group. And I worked in various unions for 20 years, a little over 20 years. And there was a moment at one of these brunches that we had that I will never forget, because at that time I was under intense harassment by my boss, which was so relentless that every day I would go to my car and I'd drive out to somewhere else and I would just cry in my car. And eventually I had to get, I had to take a leave of absence. And so during that leave of absence, I was considering quitting, because I thought I can't go back to that kind of intense harassment. And there was just something that Sharon said to me when we were talking at the brunch. And I don't even remember what she said, but it was so encouraging and it was so loving and caring that I thought, okay, I can survive this. I can survive this. And no one that I knew could do that except her. I had a therapist, I had a psychiatrist. They would have done whatever, I was willing to do. So it was just such a moment that I will never forget it. And that's just the kind of friend she was. She was just so wonderful. I'm so happy to be here.
Did anybody else want to share? Yes, please.
I know I've already shared. Some people don't like talking to people.
But I want to ask if you would all stand up and give her a round of applause for her life and her accomplishments.
Thank you all. I want to thank Sharon's sisters again for helping to make this happen, and thank all of you for your time and coming together to share. Henry, thank you for the pictures. We can start displaying them again, I think. A lot of fun memories, a lot of decades with Sharon Stewart. And Al, we love you. I know you don't want to talk today, but thank you for letting us share with you all of our memories. And we'll adjourn and just talk amongst ourselves for a while.
Alexander,
Yeah,
amen. We love you.
love you too. Love you too, Uncle.
Want you to keep going, man. Keep moving forward, okay?
Yeah, no, I will. I will.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I mean, you know, it means the world to me.
Yeah, Sharon really loved you, and
Yeah.
we always talked about you and kept us informed, and
Yeah.
we want the best for you, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Always.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I actually have a copy.
And Paul, it was great seeing you guys.
Sure.
And we thank you guys, and good seeing you guys again, okay?
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it was nice seeing you
You
too,
know
Charles.
Alex?
Okay.
Oh.
I'm gonna drop off now. So
Wow.
I gotta
Take care. Take care.
rest my neck. Okay.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
All right.
And Paul, this is Ethel. I just want to say that when you and Sharon got married, you might not remember me, but I had my plane ticket ready to come and talk to